Hey everyone, welcome to Coffee with Changemakers. I'm Robin.
And I'm Yoshi. On the Coffee with Changemakers podcast, we explore the stories of changemakers taking on some of today's biggest social and environmental challenges.
Every episode, we host an intimate conversation on social impact and leadership, where we listen, learn, and connect over a cup of coffee with inspiring guests from all over the world.
So before we jump into today's episode, we have a quick ask. If you enjoy our conversations, it would mean the world to us if you subscribe, rate, and perhaps even tell a friend about the show. Your support helps us bring even more inspiring guests onto future episodes.
So, here's today's coffee chat. Enjoy.
Today on Coffee with Changemakers, we're joined by a young leader whose passion for social impact is already making waves across Japan and beyond. Emre Caglar is the founder and executive director of Youth for a Future, a nonprofit empowering children in orphanages to self-discover what role they want to play in a global society. Based in Yokohama and affiliated with Keio University, Emre has built programs that foster self-discovery, social responsibility, and independence for youth through weekly classes, excursions, and seasonal camps. He's also a One Young World ambassador and a tireless advocate for youth empowerment. Now grab your coffee and let's dive into Emre's journey, vision, and how he's building a brighter future for the next generation. So welcome, Emre.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here today.
Of course. Let's kanpai with our coffee. Kanpai.
Kanpai.
All right. So where are we today?
We're in an amazing soundproof studio.
Yeah. So this is actually one of the first times that we've actually, rented out a proper, studio, not a band, and we've done a recording. So I'm super excited. Coffee Changemakers is leveling up. We're leveling up. Yeah.
Can't wait for all these discussions
Thank
in
you.
this leveled up room.
Exactly. Thank you. So Emily, so we kind of met first through One Young World.
Yeah.
So we have that like One Young World connection,
Yeah.
And just to kind of share a little bit of the backdrop, like one of the reasons why Robin and I decided to start Coffee and Changemakers is because we had both attended the summit in the past. So like Robin attended the Bangkok summit and I attended actually 4 summits in total.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And like at every One Young World Summit, like we hear these inspiring stories from these young leaders from all over the world, right?
Right.
And for me, like I was like, wow, like this is so, mottainai. This is, how unfortunate it is that these stories are only shared amongst this closed, environment,
Right.
right? I was like, man, like if we could only share these stories with the rest of the world, maybe it could inspire, even more people. So that's kind of like why Robin and I started Coffee and Changemakers. But I kind of want to, because of our common sort of bond there, I kind of want to start off by asking you, how was the summit that you went to in Montreal?
I don't think words can describe how amazing it was. It was definitely the most impactful summit that I've ever attended. I mean, it was the first summit I've attended in my life. It was kind of like the first big event.
No way.
It was a 4-day event. It was amazing. Like I think the biggest highlight is like the amount of amazing people.
Yep.
Like we made a nice circle. There was like a nice circle time for the scholars who attended, and it was incredible. Like there was like 20 people in the circle. Each one had amazing projects. The person next to me had an organization with 40,000 volunteers.
Wow.
The person after that had like a huge coral restoration project going on.
Wow.
You don't get occasions where you can
exactly
meet all these incredible people at one place. So
exactly.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
Nice. So yeah, I mean, were there any sort of like specific, stories that, touched your heart, or, do you have any sort of recollections of any of that?
Yeah, so there's this one speaker. I don't quite remember their name, unfortunately,
That's
but she's a principal
Okay.
at a school in Kenya, if I'm not
Kenya.
wrong.
Okay.
And she was just talking about her love towards the students
Okay.
and how, these children, they don't have anyone who can tell them, I love you. Like, show them affection and love and emotional support.
Gotcha.
And she was just talking about how she wanted to be that person.
Wow.
within the kids' lives, and it was so emotional. A lot
Right.
of people got emotional in the hall,
Wow.
and it was actually the second speaker, I think, second or third speaker in the
Okay.
summit. So that's when I really realized like how how amazing
Yep.
One Young World is,
Yep.
and like the people who come here
Yep.
are people who make true impact,
Yep.
even if it's unseen. So
Mm.
that was just like the initial moment which kind of clicked,
Nice.
and made me realize how amazing these people are.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that we can send more and more delegates from Japan, but also around
Yeah.
the world. And so, yeah, if any of you guys want to learn more about One Young World as well, please check out their website. I think it's like oneyoungworld.com, or you can search it up on Google.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, Emily, I wanted to kind of also dig a little bit into your origin story, or your past, because you have such a fascinating story, right? Because you're Turkish,
Yeah,
but you were kind of like born and raised in Japan.
that's right.
Yeah, and so yeah, I would love to learn more about your story.
Yeah, so it, it all started when I was born in Osaka.
Osaka. Hey,
Yes.
Kansai, me too.
Yeah. No, I can't speak in Kansai, and there's like
Okay.
I don't have that accent, but after that, right away, um, when I was a few months old, we moved to Tokyo. And now I live in Yokohama. But me personally, I started by going to Hoikuen. That's why I have a bit of Japanese.
Nice.
So thank you to my parents for that.
Nice.
But I attended an international school
Okay.
for pretty much the entirety of my life.
Wow.
And my parents were both in the education field.
Cool.
My mom's still a teacher.
Amazing.
Yeah, my dad's working in Japanese corporation now. But
Hey.
yeah, it's started with international schools, and I was in the IB school.
Yep.
That's the factor that played a huge role in me becoming a bit more like, within the field of social entrepreneurship, and getting social impact project ideas. That's kind of a huge role which played, I think. These
Nice.
IB international schools.
Nice. Like when you were in high school, like did you have opportunities yourself to like, I don't know, volunteer or
Right.
like do any community, program, participate in any community programs?
Yeah, it's kind of drawing it back a
Okay.
bit from high school, but the first time I really ever did something was in grade 4, actually.
Wow. Grade 4.
Yeah,
Got an
and
early start.
oh yeah, and the reason for that was my dad, I
Okay.
think. So my dad worked in a company which did a lot of efforts towards helping and supporting the regions affected by the 2011 earthquake. So these different organizations within the Fukushima prefecture, they were trying to support the community which was impacted. And what the
Gotcha.
company which my dad worked at did was they offered grants
I
for
see.
supporting these organizations.
Wow.
So I think seeing that as a kid, that made me want to actually do something as well. And in grade 4, I think that was when it kind of sparked. I was like, you know what? I don't know why, but I'm gonna do a toy donation to the orphanage. So I kind of got the whole school involved in doing like a toy drive, and
Wow.
sent the toys to the orphanage. So that's kind of where all the social impact journey started.
Interesting. Wow. So you're in grade 4?
Yeah, I still don't know why I did it.
Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
I think I have to ask my mom again about that.
It's in your blood, probably.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Amazing. そうなんだ. And okay, so you went through schooling in Japan, but you attended international school, and now, which university are you at, and what are you studying?
Yeah, so I'm at Keio University right
Cool.
now.
Okay.
I'm a second year, moving on to my third.
Nice.
From September.
Nice.
And I'm studying economics.
Economics. Okay. Okay.
In the Pearl program.
Gotcha. The Pearl program, you said?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, it's a program in sorry. All Pearl students have a difficult time.
Okay.
Kind of describing it, but it's the program for economics, alliance, research, and leadership.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, it's a bit
すごいね.
very long name.
Yeah. Okay, so you're
Yeah.
part of that program,
Right.
and nice. Wow, I mean, so I remember that when I was in college, I would say 80-90% of my time was taken up by my academics, because I went to school in the US, and
Oh.
I think Americans do a really good job of working hard and partying hard, so they go like all out. And but I really struggled. Like I could barely keep up with my academics, so I spent 80-90% of my time like just studying, like holed up in the library. But like man, like how do you do that? Because okay, we'll get into your organization soon, but
Right.
you're a full-time student, yet you're also running an organization on the side. Like how do you manage your time, man?
Yeah, so Japanese universities, I think like the system is set up in a way that allows students to have a lot of flex time, so
Okay,
flexible
cool,
time.
cool.
We go to university. It's almost as if we go to university. The university tells us, look, this is your schedule.
Yep.
To come to your classes. We won't give you that much homework,
Okay.
and you decide what to do with your free time.
Oh, interesting.
That's the impression I got, at least
Interesting. Okay.
within my program in university. And
Okay.
talking with others within like other universities, Sophia, Waseda, I think
Yep.
there's like a similar trend in
Okay.
Japan. So yeah, it's pretty much like the decision is up to the individual, right?
Gotcha.
Whether they want to make use of that time or have fun in that time. I'm not a person who can judge what the person does, but for me, I feel like, I try to use the time outside of university
Right.
to do something purposeful.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Nice.
it's kind of
Cool.
how I navigate.
Well, perfect. Well, I mean, that really, it's a nice segue into your organization, Youth for Future, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, I would love to hear like how where did this idea first like come from? Like, I mean, I know it was always in your blood, but then like, there was a
Yeah.
group of friends, you have a co-founder, like how did it all start?
Yeah, so Youth for Future, I think the idea gradually came.
Okay.
So in grade 9 and 10, I established a school club,
Hey,
and it was based on like the Sustainable Development Goals,
nice.
the SDGs.
SDGs. Yep.
Yeah. So at the time, I was like, yeah, I'm passionate about them.
Yep.
I didn't necessarily have a specific SDG I was passionate about yet.
Okay.
So we were trying to do something within the school where we would, raise awareness and take action upon these. And then moving into grade 10, I was like, well, okay, I have a school club, but I'm gonna eventually have to hand this over. So why not build an external organization, a youth organization, and do stuff outside of the school?
Nice.
So that's when Youth for Future actually came up as an idea.
Cool.
So during the summer break from grade 10 to 11, I kind of try to establish an organization where we would get international school students from different schools, and we would take action and raise awareness about the SDGs in different ways.
Nice.
But obviously, eventually, I realized, you can focus on all the SDGs, but you're not going to be making big impact or creating actual impact because your team doesn't know where you're trying to head towards, right? There's no mission and vision. And, at the time, I had a very influential teacher. He was very impactful to me, and he really showed me the power of education.
Yeah.
So that's why I got really interested in education. So I was like,
Nice.
okay, let's focus on education.
Yep.
Right. And then moving from there, sorry, it's a very long story.
No. I'd love to hear. Yeah.
Moving from then, when people think of, oh, let's help with education.
Yeah.
Let's help children with their education.
Right.
I feel like the immediate thought is helping children in underdeveloped countries.
Okay.
So that's what we did.
I see.
We partnered with a school in Kenya, and we donated school supply to the kids there. And we got the photos back, and the kids were all very happy.
Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
it was amazing.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's beautiful.
But in reality, that happiness in me lasted only for like 30 seconds to a minute.
Okay.
And the reason is because I realized, well, we gave them the school supply right now, but they're gonna run out of this
Exactly.
in 2 months.
Exactly.
So that's when we started reconsidering. Well, is what we are doing really sustainable? Is this gonna go anywhere? Even though the kids are happy now, will we be able to sustainably make them happy?
Right.
So that's when we discussed within the team to reevaluate what we can do, and see what our strengths are.
Gotcha.
And then we were like, well, okay, we're in Japan, right? And we have a brilliant team here.
Yep.
If we were to do something more hands-on that we can actually go and make an impact in, that would be a better idea. So that's when we decided, well, okay, let's focus on the kids in Japan then. It's like the poverty rate within the kids in Japan is quite significant. 1 in 7 kids are in poverty.
1 in 7, you said?
Yeah, 1 in 7.
No way.
So we were like, all right, let's try to support these kids.
Wow.
But like going through the journey, 1 in 7 kids means a lot of kids.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we were like, well, we need to redefine,
Yeah.
like further narrow down
Yeah.
who we want to focus on. And that's when we ended up in Orphanages right now.
Wow.
So it's kind of like a big journey of 2 to 3 years of trying to figure out what's the best fit for us. And I think that process is actually the most enjoyable part of it, looking back, trying to discover what you really are passionate about and how you can make a real impact.
Amazing.
Social impact, yeah.
Amazing. Wow. I mean, I want to sort of, dig deeper in that point of sustainability or
Right.
keeping your enterprise, sustainable, or making sure that impact is long lasting and not just like a short term thing.
Right.
Um, but but okay, let me take a step back. Your entity is it a nonprofit, or is
Mhm.
it a social enterprise? Is it a for profit? Like, what is it right now? Youth for
Right.
Future.
So Youth for Future is an NPO housing.
NPO Hoshi.
So
Okay,
that means nonprofit.
gotcha. It's a nonprofit. Okay, understood. Understood. So, are you currently dependent on, I guess, donations, outside donations?
Yeah. So right now we actually received our first grant
Nice.
from the
Congrats.
Tokyo Corporation. So
Oh, Tokyo.
yeah.
Oh, great.
So yeah.
Great.
Shout out to the Tokyo
Yes. Woot,
Corporation.
woot.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of keeping us going for the next few months.
Mm,
And what we're really trying to go for now is
right.
corporate sponsors,
Okay.
because we believe that that's the long term sustainable. Like that's what's going to allow us to run sustainably in the
Okay.
long run.
Okay.
So yeah, we do have donations, but I feel like what we're really trying to go for is corporates.
Larger like corporate sponsorships.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you? Okay. I'm just gonna challenge you a little bit. Okay.
Right.
Have you considered maybe coming up with programs where you can actually um, sort of maybe provide some sort of service,
Hmm.
or even come up with like a product based on you and your staff specialization, where you can start charging these corporations for professional service
As in like within the organization, or
within the organization. Yeah, yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, instead of relying on these companies for these corporate sponsorships,
right.
because the sad reality, right, is that during economic times of I guess boom,
Right.
a lot of these companies are flush with cash and they're happy to support these NGOs and
Right.
NPOs. But when we have a bear economy, right, like
Right.
what happened, and back in 2008, or what happened after tsunami, like these corporations start to like become very, very stingy.
Right.
And I'm just afraid like what would happen to like NPOs, NGOs like yours,
Right.
if that's the case. So
Yeah, I think what we are also focused on right now, and I think we can see examples of NPOs which do this, is in the case of that situation
yep,
occurring,
yep,
which might last for 2 or 3 years.
yep.
They're trying to build up financial basis from now. So they're trying
Nice.
to build their financial foundation so
Okay.
that if an emergency does occur,
Yep.
they can have this amount of cash that they can use
Okay.
to further support their programs.
Okay.
And I think that's what we want to do as well.
Okay.
So in those downturns, being prepared for such events and such situations,
Yep.
we want to be able to build that financial foundation from now,
Right.
so that we can have an emergency like safety net
Cool.
type. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Level.
Nice. Nice. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm definitely, I got your back. So
Thank
if
you.
there's more any B2B or corporate sponsors that you guys are looking for, let's chat about that later on.
Yeah.
But let's kind of move into impact a little bit.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear more about, the kids that you're impacting, some of the
Mhm,
stories
mhm.
that you could share with us.
Yeah.
What do your programs look like? Like, could you
Mm.
maybe try to describe to me and the audience, like, what goes on in the life of a day of Emre?
Oh, nice. Okay. So, Youth for Future, as you
Yes.
mentioned, what we're focused on is trying to get the children in these orphanages in Japan to self-discover what they want to do in
Nice.
society when they're 18,
Okay.
when they're thrown in society. The reality is that there's a lot of NPOs which support children in orphanages,
Yeah.
and some of these NPOs support them through giving them financial advice
Mm,
and mentorship. But in reality, what we see as Youth for Future is, well, we can give all these support,
right.
but the kids don't even know what they want to do in
I
the first
see.
place, right? They don't know. They don't have necessarily. They don't really have a dream
Yep.
of, I want to do this.
Yep.
And this is partially because of the trap they're involved in, which is the only two adults they engage with is being the public school teachers and the social
Mm,
care workers in the orphanage.
mm,
So they automatically, some of them, narrow their future careers as those two possibilities.
I see.
So our programs are really trying to empower these children to understand what role they want to play in society. So what career fits best for them,
Okay.
and it's designed in a way that they get to simulate different careers through project-based learning.
Okay.
And we use computers. We incorporate computers, and we look at different units with the kids. They
Mm,
create different projects based on this different units,
mm,
in the standpoint of being in a simulation of a specific career.
Nice.
So it's kind of like all those three elements combined.
Mm.
Yeah, so we have those weekly classes, which are those. We have Discovery Day programs, which are field trips that
Right.
kind of aid those project-based learning
Cool.
classes. So the kids decide a place they want to go to based on what we're learning and covering
Wow.
in these classes,
Wow.
and then we make that kind of come to life.
Nice.
And we also run the spring and summer camp programs, which is
Nice.
the occasion where these kids can present these projects to other kids from other care homes, the volunteers, the sponsors, and everyone.
Nice.
So, yeah, I mean, if I were to specifically highlight a specific point in time where I felt like we were actually making an impact
Right.
is in the spring camp this year. So the kids were presenting their projects they've been working on
Okay.
for the past maybe 1 or 2 months.
Right.
And the project was basically where they simulate having their own travel agency. So they choose a country, they research, they make a 1-day plan, and they're trying to sell that to customers
Wow.
in the camp.
Interesting.
So it really gets them to practice different skills.
Yeah.
But what was so nice to see was, not nice to see, but really impactful, I think, was the fact that, there were 2 kids who were very shy to do this. And they actually started crying. So they were tearing up because they were nervous. But at the end, them 2 were the most passionate and the most confident
No way.
at the end. So it was like, that was the first time where I felt like, wow, we might actually be making an impact on these kids. So yeah, if I were to highlight one point, that would definitely be the point where I felt like,
Beautiful.
we're starting to make an impact.
Beautiful. So I'm assuming that majority of these kids are they're from orphans, and so is all the programming in Japanese?
Yeah. So
Okay.
even though internally we speak in English
Yep.
and prepare all these programs in English,
Yep.
everything else is in Japanese.
Gotcha.
But we do incorporate English into our programs.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. You incorporate English into your programs. Nice. Nice. Amazing. All right. So what were some of the challenges that you've faced in running these programs? If you could maybe highlight 1 or 2 stories, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. Maybe I can start with the organization side. So
Okay,
internally,
sure. Of course, yeah.
So I think what's very difficult with the nonprofit space is that, especially when it comes to nonprofits like us, which is just getting started up, no one gets paid from them, right? So it's really based on how passionate the individual within the team is.
I see.
And I think as, the head or the executive director of the organization,
Right.
it's also your responsibility
Yep.
to meet the needs and wants
Yep.
of your own members.
Of course.
Right? Making sure that they get what they want out of this.
Yep.
Because they don't get money, so they're here for a different reason.
Yes.
Right? So I think that was a big struggle for
Okay.
me in the beginning because, back when it was a high school project, people were doing it because maybe they wanted to use it for their university entrance. It's fine.
Yeah.
But when you move on to university, I think there's that pressure of adding value to your members as well, trying to make sure that they are able to gain something out of the experience. So that was a bit of a struggle at the beginning to kind of even understand that you need to care about your own members as well.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so that was definitely one of the challenges. Yeah, and then the second challenge I would say is within the orphanage.
Yep.
So, we use computers for our lessons, right? And for us, it's very normal to know how to type, right? And it really hit me when we went to this orphanage for the first time. And then we gave the computers out. And then the kids were like, what am I supposed to do?
Oh.
So at that moment, I was like, whoa, wait a second. These kids have never even touched a computer before. And we're the first point in their lives where they get to use a computer.
Wow.
So, we had to start from the basics of giving them a cheat sheet where they can learn how to type in Japanese. So I think that was also a challenge where, yes, normal things things that seem so normal for us is not normal for the kids.
Yeah.
And, it's an unfortunate situation, but I guess that's why we're here.
I see.
So yeah, I think another challenge for that reason is just, our expectations versus the reality is different. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, because in this day and age, like without knowing how to operate a computer, or having some level of tech know-how, how are you
Mhm.
going to survive in this day of AI, you know?
Yeah.
So it's amazing that you guys have become the first contact for these kids, for them to, you know, get familiar with many of these technological tools. So that in and of itself is already a win.
Yeah.
That's really cool. All right. Um, so yeah, Emily, like my next question is the why. So what kind of gets you up in the morning? Like what makes you say, man, I want to, you know, devote the time, my free time and the energy that I have in serving these orphans? Like where do you get that motivation from?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, I had that very impactful teacher.
Yes.
So I think it's the fact that he influenced me so much in a way that I wanted to become a teacher in the future,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
So what gets me up is like the fact that as an organization we can be the people who are who inspired these kids, right?
I
In the
see.
future they can say Youth for Future, the YFF members, maybe
I
even
see.
Emre is the one who allowed me to discover what I wanted to do.
I see.
And that thought is what keeps me up. I mean, not keeps me up, but wakes me up,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
gets me out
Yeah.
of gets me out of my house, start
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
That thought that I can be that person.
Nice.
And I think another point is being a role model
Yep.
for not the kids in the orphanage,
Yep.
but the kids in our international school that I used to be
Mm.
in.
Mm.
I
Mm.
want to be able to show, like students, not only in where I was studying, but
Right.
like in other international schools that, or any other school,
Right.
that a simple high school project, a
Mm.
simple idea
Mm.
can transform into something much bigger and much more
Yes.
substantial than you think.
Yes.
And I think that's what also is a factor that keeps me going
Yep.
with
Yep.
Youth for Future.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember like, what was it, 2 months ago when we shared the panel at
Right.
the event? Yeah, like remember you were talking about it's not just about the numbers, you know. The
Yeah.
numbers are fancy, you know, it's good to have, but it's about the depth of your impact,
Right.
the magnitude of, you know, what you do and how you impact that one individual,
Mm.
and the fondness of that is what matters even more, which I think is 100% true, you know.
Yeah.
You can impact a million people and have like a tiny little impact on each of their
Yeah.
lives, or you can completely change one person's worldview, you know.
Yeah.
And that's equally as important, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I
um,
think that's exactly what we're trying to do as Youth for Future.
Nice.
We focus on, instead of focusing on 1,000 kids,
Yep.
we focus on 40, but
Nice.
we see them every single week or
Wow.
once in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So, like you said, I think the world is kind of obsessed with quantifying
Yep.
impact
Yep.
nowadays, right?
Yep.
But how are you going to quantify, for example, a child smiling,
Yep.
a child's happiness?
Exactly.
You can't quantify those things. So
Exactly.
I feel like, yeah, what we do as Youth for Future is more qualitative. And I think we'll be able to see our impact, maybe not tomorrow or the
Mm.
next week or the
Mm.
month after that,
Mm.
but after a few years, where these children can, get to see and different careers and get to have a passion for something. So
Mm.
it's going to take a few years, I feel like, to
Mm.
actually see some results
Right.
of our programs. But
Right.
there's this gradual progress of learning how to use a computer,
Right.
learning different skills along the way. So it's
Right.
definitely, there's still an impact being made every week.
Beautiful. So well said. All right. So I'm going to transition now a little bit into insights and reflections.
Hmm.
But I'm sure, you know, you yourself as a leader, Emily, like you've grown in many ways, as you've built Youth for Future. So if you had to reflect on your personal growth, like throughout this journey, right? Like what would you say that were some of these like key growth areas or things you learned along this path?
Things I learned along this
Yeah.
path. I think one thing is balance.
Balance.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a university student,
Yep.
right? I'm a second year university student. I'm running an organization
Yep.
and I also do part-time work.
Wow.
And, balancing all these different factors is important, and this connects to burnout, right?
Mm. Mm.
I think a few months ago, I had a point where I would only be able to allocate maybe 4 or 5 hours within a week for school work.
Wow.
So that was a point where I was like, this is insane. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that connects to the point where you need to learn how to have time for yourself,
Yep.
right? Because, or else you're going to burn out.
Of course.
So, a really big learning point for me for the past year has been learning how to balance
Mm.
your life in a way
Mm.
that you have time for yourself, you
Mm.
have time for your personal growth,
Mm.
you have time for your studies,
Mm.
and just balancing out everything. Yeah, it's been like the key point of learning for me. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, if you don't mind, like, I mean, we were talking about football earlier, but like,
Yeah.
what do you do to like have fun? What do you do to relax? How do to maintain that balance?
Yeah, I mean, Sundays are, I feel kind of old now, but for me, Sundays are kind of like off days. So I'm
Nice.
like, I just want to spend time with my family.
Cool.
I don't even want to go like
Mm,
meet with my friends. I love my
mm,
friends, but
mm.
like Sundays are just kind of like take it easy,
Yep.
like take a step back,
Yep.
reflect upon the week,
Good.
and take it easy.
Good.
But yeah, other days, I love watching football,
Yeah.
so I support Yokohama F Marinos.
Go Marinos.
Yeah, go Marinos. We're in relegation battle, but yeah, I like watching football. Sometimes playing.
Okay.
I recently started gym.
Oh,
Going
you
to the
too.
gym.
Nice. All right.
So for the first time in a while, I was like, you know what? I got to do something for myself.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is very important.
Yep.
And people forget about this
Mm,
when they're in like the rush of, doing as much as possible in life.
exactly.
So, yeah, going to the gym now
Yeah.
a few times a week. That's
Nice.
been really helping.
Good.
I'm off my phone. I'm off anything. Just with my music.
Good.
In the gym. It's. I think it's important.
Good. Amazing. Okay. So all right. So actually, let me take a step back. So
Hmm.
as you know, One Young World, we listen to all these inspiring, talk speeches from young leaders from around the world,
Right.
and we are inspired to take action. There's like go back home and then now take action.
Mm.
So now putting yourself in the position of somebody who is now giving a word of encouragement, do you have any advice for aspiring change makers? Because you're there and you're doing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who are listening, who are thinking of maybe starting their own little thing or their own little project at school, university,
Yeah.
or people who want to take a big risk to make an impact, like what sort of advice or tips do you have for them?
I think before starting, get to really know what you are interested in.
Mm.
Because once you start something and once you have a team, it's difficult to change based on your own opinion, right?
Yes.
It's difficult to, even for us, narrowing down from all the SDGs to quality education. It's not easy.
Yep.
And members left, right?
I see.
Because not everyone's interested in education.
I see.
So I think what's first important is to explore and learn
Gotcha.
what really interests you.
Gotcha.
Yeah, what's that thing which, would get you up in the morning?
Mm.
And once you really understood that, build a team
Mm.
of people who are like-minded, who are
Nice.
interested in that same issue
Yep.
as well. And what I would recommend is start collaborating
Okay.
with different organizations
Okay.
because you've built something,
Right.
you've built a team,
Right.
but you don't have the know-how how to, further grow it.
Okay.
And there's NPOs out there who have been doing what you want to do maybe
Right.
for the past few years.
Yep.
So learning from them, learning from different NPOs in different areas is, I think, very important. So kind of collaborate,
Nice.
right? And then once you collaborate, you get all this knowledge and you get all these expertise and like kind of just know-how from all these NPOs you've engaged with and collaborated with. And once you have all those elements, you can start with your own programs. You can start running things independently as well. And then at a certain point in time, other NPOs are gonna
Yep.
small NPOs are gonna start wanting to work with you.
Nice.
So yeah, I think it's just explore and learn and collaborate and then take actual action on your own
Amazing.
and impact. That's
Cool.
kind of like the suggestion I would give.
Very cool. All right. So kind of like wrapping up now.
Mhm.
So looking ahead, future endeavors. So what's next on the horizon for you? Like, are there
Mhm.
any exciting upcoming projects or new challenges that you and your team are like gearing up to tackle?
Yeah. I think what we've been doing for the past few months, and I think which is going to be our key point moving forward,
Yep.
maybe, is obviously we have our programs within the orphanage, right? And, on top of that, right now we're trying to be that organization which can inspire other high school students, other youth to start up their own projects,
Nice.
social impact projects.
Nice.
I think our story is a bit unique in a way that it started all from like a high school initiative and a high school idea. So, sharing that with high school students, middle school students allows them to see a path, right? It allows them to see that, oh, wait, if I really did start something right now, it could grow into something like this.
Yep.
So what we really want to do is we want to go to different schools in Japan and try to be that inspiration.
Amazing.
And that's what we've been doing with a few schools so far throughout the year this year.
Wow.
So I think, moving forward, that's going to be interesting path for us as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, if anybody who's listening is connected to, a school or knows the principal, please make sure you let Emily know. So yeah, Emily, how can our listeners like reach out to you? Like, could you maybe share your social media handles or your website so they can search and connect with you?
Yeah, definitely. So my social media is for Instagram. You can
Yeah.
message me through
Yeah.
Emre_Caglar, or
Nice.
through my LinkedIn. Emre, if you write my name, Emre Caglar, it should pop up, and we'll be more than happy to connect with any of you.
I think you'll have to spell that out for people
Oh,
because
yeah,
I
fair
had a
enough,
hard
yeah.
time. Yeah.
So yeah, Emre is spelled EMRE.
Yep.
And then Caglar is CAGLAR.
Caglar.
Yeah.
Amazing. Beautiful. Well, okay. So thank you so much, listeners, for listening to today's episode of Coffee and Changemakers with Emre Caglar, the founder leader of Youth for Future. Any last sort of words or anything you want to share with your audience before we close?
Yeah, no, I wish all of you the best. And I think what's really important in this society right now is to work together towards combating different issues. So, there's a lot of people around you who are trying to do the same thing as you.
Yep.
So yeah, let's all work together and let's combat these issues one by one.
Exactly. Collaboration over competition.
Yes.
Always wins. Always wins.
Definitely.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you so much, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.